I want to welcome everybody to the call. This is another millionaire conversation. And I'm about to tell on Michelle right now. It's all me. Don't blame her. This is my sister friend. This is my sister from another Mr. Michelle, aka White Chocolate. That is
Oh
what
my
she's known to
God.
the world.
You let out the secret. It's true. It's true. Like if your cousin calls me white chocolate,
She does.
it is fact.
She does. So funny. So why are we here? I've been having this burning thing inside of me. It's been in me for a while to share my own journey, which is tough, right? To open the curtains and kind of share what's going on. But I wanted to bring some of my friends along who have built multi-million dollar businesses and have some open, transparent conversations about not only what it takes to get here, but what happens when you're in the trenches of it. And just kind of sharing, because I think more transparency is required if there are to be more of us women, more of us chocolate women, that make it to the $1 million mark, because there's too few, right? Only 2% of women business owners, period. So 98% of women founded companies never see the $1 million mark. And even fewer of them look like me. So of all the, what is it, 35 billion? Million. No, I don't know what the number is. It's a lot. I think it's 35 million
35
businesses.
million.
Yeah, businesses that are formed. Only 2% of those are women owned businesses that cross $1 million in your business. And for me, Michelle, I don't know what your take is on this, but I feel like the $1 million mark is the scale mark. When I see people selling people programs who don't have clients right now or who are just starting out, let me show you how to scale to 10,000. There's no scaling to $10,000 months. You get there. You
Yeah.
get to six figures. You get to multiple six figures. Your scaling doesn't really start until you hit the $1 million mark. That's when you have cash flow and capital that allows you to be able to play with things and test things. Before that, it's tight and you don't have very much to work with. So it makes scaling difficult, which is why most people struggle with it. So, Michelle, I don't know what your take is on that, but that's my 2 cents.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. Like I've been around, I'm the 12-year overnight success. And so feel like I've been around the block with all the courses and programs and all the jazz and the marketing of that. And back when I first started out, like I remember thinking, holy moly, I could make $10,000 a month. Are you kidding me? Like
Yeah.
that just seems so far away from where I was. But scaling to me uh, happens when like you are at capacity yourself as the business owner. That's why you need to scale. It's not like, woo, I got 3 clients, I'm going to start scaling now. It's
Yeah.
like, no, like I actually have no more time
Yeah.
for anything, like for growing my business, for working with clients, for like building the pieces that are required to operate at this level. Like there's nothing left of
Right.
me to give. And so you actually need to scale. And
Hmm.
so it's like to me, it's like a like real in business organic step that happens.
Yes.
It's not a marketing angle to, get to $1 million. It's what's required,
Right.
right? You and I've had so many conversations, some in jacuzzis, where we're like, what is going on? Like, why is it so difficult?
Yes. And you said when you're at capacity, I've had people come to me and they feel like they're at capacity and that feeling is very real. They're at capacity and they have two clients. That's still not scaling, right? That is figure out your business models. You're in the make money phase. You're in the what I call the cash creation phase. That is where you're testing your business model. You're testing your modality. You're testing your methods. You're testing your messaging to make sure that you can create clients. But what happens is we put too much on our plate, and I say we because I was in that boat as well. Because people were saying, do this, do that, be on this platform, be on that platform. There was a time in my business, I think this was like circa 2015 or so, that I literally like had to pull myself offline because I was listening to too many people. There were too many strategies in the air. There was Facebook ads, and it was the newest thing ever. And there was video and groups, and there was so many other platforms you could use, and just so much noise that I just got a deep knowing. It was like God spoke to me and said, "Stop it." And so I pulled my business offline because here's what I know: business has been being done since the beginning of time,
Right?
before the internet, before Facebook, before live streaming and TikTok and all of those things. Business has been being done. This is just an innovative way to make money as a business owner. Business has been around for millennia, centuries, right?
Right?
And they figured out how to make money. And so I took my business offline. Now I was still here doing stuff, but the building of my business happened in face to face networking. I did a live event every 6 weeks. And from that live event, get this, Michelle, I enrolled people into Play Big. What year is this?
Still doing play big.
It's 2022, people. Still doing Play Big, right?
Right.
And so once I got my messaging down and understood that people were they were buying the program consistently, I got my confidence back because the internet was siphoning it, right? So I needed to learn how to make money first. And what I see is too many business owners, entrepreneurs, experts who are trying to make money online, hiring a crap ton of people because they're like, I don't want to do all this stuff, and you don't know how to do it. And I always tell my clients, you need to learn how to do the thing first and then hire someone, because how the hell do you know if they're doing it right?
Right? Seriously.
Like, try it first, get the knack of it, and then bring somebody on once you've created some SOPs and things like that. This is why you throw money at hiring VAs and other people, and they're like, my last VA sucked. And I was guilty of that too. I think I went through like 5 or 6 VAs before I like slapped myself upside the head and said, slow down. Those people are going to solve your problem. Your problem is elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I agree with you. It's a now problem, but it's also, it's a capacity problem.
Hmm.
But don't be under the illusion. Don't be disillusioned by your busyness.
Right. Like, where are you spending your time?
Yeah. Capacity with clients. Like, there's no way in the world you could handle more clients, right? When we started scaling Next Level Authority, um, when we started scaling Next Level Authority, I was at capacity with how many clients I could coach at one time.
Yeah.
And there was nothing that I could do about that unless I wanted to work every day of the week coaching clients. And it's impossible if you're a CEO of a company for that to happen.
Well, like, well, the thing that I learned about all of this is, and I gotta say, I hold my hands up, I learned this from you, is your boundaries around your time. Now, I might work at different hours and stuff like that, but I've gotten so clear about my boundaries
Yeah.
around my time, how much time I'll take out of my week to work on my business,
Yeah.
how much time I have to work with clients. You and
Mm-hmm.
I had a conversation recently where it's like, if I can do this, but I'm going to need to figure some others, like move some stuff along to other people. Um, and and like, this is part of the being a CEO of a $1 million plus business, right? Like, you've got to get so clear about your boundaries and what you are no longer willing to tolerate,
Mm-hmm.
right? Energetically, relationship wise, people in your team, right? Like, for me, that's been the probably, like, if ever I'm on a coaching call with my coach or mastermind and they're like, what's going on, Michelle? I'm like, I don't know, help me with my team. Like, I don't like
Yes.
that seems to be the thing I'm always talking about, right? Like, hiring and team.
Yes. So I want to put a plug in that because I think that's a conversation I really want to lean into today.
Mhm.
And we talk so often, we just kind of jumped into our conversation because it just
Totally.
flows that way. And so you guys literally get to be a fly on the
Fly on the
wall.
wall.
Yeah. Literally. But I want you to introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are, how you serve in the world. Let's
Mm.
start there.
Yeah, well, I am Michelle Cooper. I'm the founder and CEO of Alchemy Accounting and Bookkeeping. We provide virtual based accounting departments to entrepreneurs across North America. And really, our mission in the world is to help our clients achieve their personal, business, and wealth goals through the elimination of financial chaos.
Ooh. And
Right?
everybody said, Amen.
And sister,
They
right?
said, Thank you, Michelle and Jesus.
Yeah. And, one of the things that I realized in the last 5 years is that these really successful business owners like yourself, right? They have put so much energy and focus on their business that they have often neglected their personal finances.
Mhm.
And that needs to be looked at too.
Yeah.
And like paid attention to. And so that's why our mission shifted recently to include the personal, business, and wealth goals.
I love it.
Right. So yeah, that's me.
So I appreciate you having this conversation, and you just touched on something, and I'm just going to kind of, this is a pulling back the curtains conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to a client about this recently because she was kind of in the same boat. So I had had so many financial breakdowns since 2008 that I was like, I'm just not doing anything. I'm not doing anything related to credit or money or checking accounts or credit cards or like, I just need to focus on making this business work. And so I will be honest, I put my head down and I just worked to try to start figuring out how to make money again. And I looked up and traction was happening, and I hadn't filed taxes. I hadn't done anything. And I think when I came to you, Michelle, we were at somewhere between 400,000 and 500,000 for the year. And
Mm-hmm.
I knew, I came to you and I said, I'm about to make a crap ton of money and it's a mess. And I need you to clean it up before I get in. So I knew that if I let it keep going, and then this windfall started to come in, that it was going to cost me big time. Like I was going to have maybe a tax lien or the stress of the IRS. And I also knew that two things: the stress of knowing that it wasn't done was going to stop me from being able to create what I desired to create. I also knew the knowing, the inner knowing of having it not done. Even though I had shut it off and started to focus and make money, I just knew that the floodgates were about to open. I could see it. That knowing was taking up room and space, also blocking my ability to be able to create it. So I reached out and said, I got to look at it.
Right.
It's scary. I know there's going to be bills and all those kinds of things, but I need to file taxes for all these years. And I need somebody else to look at my numbers and pay attention to that. And Michelle did. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because the next year I crossed $1 million in my business.
Mm-hmm.
I would go out on a limb and say that is one of the linchpins, one of the pegs in my foundation, like the stones in my foundation that allowed me to do it. I don't think if I had done that, I would have been able to cross $1 million that year.
I agree with you. And one of the reasons that, and like this is what we do, right? At Alchemy, so often we get the people who come to us that have created some chaos, and we got to like clear it up, right? And it's like decluttering, right? Like it clears the path. It shifts the energy. And even if it's, taxes you don't want to pay or you're nervous about it, like there's this freedom that comes by just getting it all done
Yeah.
and putting some structure in place,
Yeah.
right? And like it's just, I see it over and over again. People often say to me, what do I need to do to get the $1 million business? I'm like, sort out your money,
Yes.
right? Clear up your shit,
Well,
people.
and it's not even not having the stuff clear. There's a relationship there with money that says not enough,
Yeah,
right? Because with enough, I'm always looking, right? With not
totally.
enough, you don't look, you don't open bills, you don't. There's coping mechanisms that come in that bleed into your ability to receive money, your capacity to have and hold money, all of those things. I am happy to say that I owe no man, including Uncle Sam,
Right? Right? It's so
standing here
good.
this day. And I'm so appreciative of you for that. And I don't think it's a conversation that's had enough. Like the structure of business is not a conversation that's had enough. I don't know if you do you know who Wani is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like her post about business owners out here having businesses and never looking at their legal stuff always cracked me up because that's what's happening. People are going, oh, you can make money online. And they don't think about the fact that you're literally running or supposed to be running a legal entity, but there's no thought to the structure of it, just like there's no thought to the financial component. I have to tell clients all the time, I'm like, that money doesn't belong to you. When a client pays you $10,000, it's not yours to go on vacation with with your team. I mean, with your family. It's not how this works.
Yeah. No.
It's not like, oh, I got to get 5 more clients for a down payment on a house. How you doing that? You running a business. It's not how this works.
No. No.
You are running a company, and when money comes to the company, it belongs to the company, and the company pays you to run it.
Yeah.
So
Right?
get clear on what the company pays you to run it. Or else you're going to have the stress of needing the next client all over and over and over again because you're running money straight through you.
Yeah. And this happens all the time, right? Like get a couple clients, make some financial decisions, buy a new car, lease a new car, buy a house, lease a new apartment, go out and buy the shoes or whatever it is for the person. And like, I don't got any judgment on that. Like,
Yeah.
do that. That's awesome. And also understand the financials around this, right?
Yep.
And also meet your obligations,
Yeah.
right? Like we all have obligations. Like you and I are very similar. And I had a conversation with the Business Development Bank of Canada or whatever. And the lady was in shock that I have a $1 million plus business and I have no debt. She was like, this is crazy. I don't understand. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I bootstrapped this thing. Like, let me tell you, there's times where my family did not have a lot because
Yeah.
it was all going back in because I knew this was going to pay off at some point.
Beautiful. And let's say this because this is important. This is like about the journey, right? For
Mhm.
those of us who have had to bootstrap, we forget. We were just having this conversation. I just
Mhm.
said this yesterday or one day I was on a call. I was like, I bootstrapped this business with no boots.
Right. Right.
Right? I started with nothing. I was trying to find the money for the first thing that I was trying to invest in. Like there was nothing there. There was nowhere to pull from.
Mhm.
And but what I realized is at a certain point, up to a certain point, that gets you all the things.
Mhm.
That creates magic. At this level, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to be running $1 million business and not be borrowing somebody else's money to do it. You don't have to do it on cash. Keep your
No,
cash in your pocket. Make your money work for you while using somebody else's money, right? So
totally.
then something shifts once you get out of the cash creation phase, right? And you move on into leveraging and scaling and, whatever your next level in business is. Yeah, now your money mindset has to shift.
Mhm.
Yes, there's no debt, but now let's go find some. Who wants
Totally.
to hand me money?
I know. And that was my conversation, right? With BDC. It was like, well, I want a $500,000 credit line. And the lady's like, but you don't have any debt. I'm like, yeah, I know. And I'm growing. Like, do you know how much payroll costs? These
Yes,
people cost a lot of money and I need some runway.
yes,
Right. And so, yeah. And like, I can't remember who it was. I heard say this years ago. It might have actually been LaShawn. But it was like apply for money, like apply for credit when you have money, not when you
yes.
don't have any money.
So let's go say that again because I think this is
Apply
important for
for
people to
credit
understand.
and like loans and all that kind of thing when you have money in the bank,
Yeah.
not when you need money.
Yes. Banks and institutions. So, if you guys don't know this, my background is in financial services. So, that's how I started in the world doing financial stuff. So, I know a lot about this stuff. But banks would rather loan you money when you don't need it. When
Mhm.
you need it, it is too late and no one will approve you. And if you got nothing else out of what we just shared with you right now, that is a game changer. So, if you're sitting pretty, credit's good, business credit is established and good, and you don't need the money, go get more of other people's money.
Yeah.
Credit lines, right? Go set yourself up for what's next. as opposed to waiting until you need it because it becomes more difficult to get it when you need it.
Yeah. And you will need it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you and I have talked about this a lot in your business, like about like needing the capacity to have credit so that you can move money around and you don't have to run down to the bank at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon and send a wire,
Right.
right? Because we
Which is
need,
what I'm about to do in a few minutes.
right? Because we need to be able to process a large transaction, right?
Yeah.
For something.
Yeah.
And that happens in business, right? It's just part of business.
Yeah. Um, we talked early. This is such a powerful conversation, by the way. I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours about this because I don't think people really understand the necessity of having a financial person on their team, whether it's a bookkeeper to start with, then an accounting team, and then a CFO at a certain level.
Yeah,
Because we have been so used to just handling things for ourselves, and we miss opportunities because of that. But I want to shift the conversation just into the growth of your business. So I want to ask you, first of all, like, how'd you get started and where'd you end up? And then I want to talk about where you are now and what's been coming up, and that bring back that team conversation that we were talking about earlier.
totally. Totally. Well, it's funny because you and I kind of we've talked about this before. Like, I'm not the white lady who had all the money, kind of thing, right? Um, I worked in finance, in corporate finance in my life, in my career, and then I had a position as an assistant CFO, and I basically had a bit of a nervous breakdown. My kids were all really little. It was like a 12-hour a day job. It was highly stressful, and I walked out of that job and felt a little bit lost, and ended up in a bookstore trying to like find an Oprah book or something to give me some inspiration, right?
Help me, Oprah.
I know, right? And I just happened to look out the window of this bookstore, and there was this little beaten up, rundown shop across the street with a little handwritten for rent sign and a phone number. And I was like, oh, that's the cutest little shop ever. I bet that could be like a good lick of paint and some stuff, and I could make that into something awesome. I didn't know anything about running a store. I'd never done
Mm.
retail in my life. I didn't know anything about anything. But I called the number. The landlord was like, sure, you want to rent it? It's $800. And all I could think of was, I'm sure I can sell $800 worth of something to get the rent.
That's a freaking growth mindset because most people don't think like that.
Right. And so I did everything. I laid the carpet, I painted, I did all the things, and I made a little boutique. It was called Diva Boutique, and it sold all the fun girly things like perfume and candles and jewelry and all this stuff, right? It lasted 2 years because I'm not cut out to work in retail.
Hmm.
Okay.
Neither am
um
I.
and so I got my hands up for Trinice, who works in retail. I'm like,
And has
girl,
since she was 19 years old. I'm like, you
you
go, girl.
go. So it was difficult for me to work in this store. I found that the thing that it taught me is that people will buy based on relationship.
Hmm.
So what I noticed is that people would come into the store, and if I was there, they would spend money because they talked to me, they created a relationship with me. If I had somebody who was working for me for the day, no one would buy anything.
Mm.
And I was like, I don't want to be tied to this store 24/7, like
Yeah.
all the time. So I ended up closing it. I also didn't like dealing with shoplifters. I found that super offensive that somebody would come in and steal from me.
Hmm.
Um, and so I closed the store. But the thing that business gave me is, one, it gave me confidence. I created this thing from the ground up, and I thought if I could do this, I can do anything,
Yeah.
right? And two, it gave me a master's degree in entrepreneurship, because I had worked in corporate finances where you got lots of money to work with.
Yes.
And now I was working at the entrepreneurial level where things were tight.
Hmm.
So I had to learn about like the real life facts of having a business,
Yeah.
right? And paying your bills and managing the cash flow and the profitability of something and competition and all these things. The third thing it gave me was relationship capital, because I got involved in the Downtown Business Improvement Society. I got to know all the other local business owners. I helped so many of them with their finances because they were lost. And I realized that this was a problem,
Mm-hmm.
that business owners they were doing this thing they were so passionate about, but they had no clue how to figure out the numbers. Right. And it was like you, head down, making money, making money, making money, and then spending money. And what was left for them?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I closed the store, I had a couple of people I had gotten to know pretty well. And they asked me if I would help them with their books and their numbers and cash flow. So I started doing that. And that led to referral to other people. I started hiring bookkeepers and accountants to do the work. And 12 years along,
Yeah.
here I am.
And voila, she had $1 million business. That's how you were supposed to say
Right. And voila. But, you know, like, honestly, the relationship capital of my business is one of the most important things.
Yeah.
Right. It has been a huge key to my success. The entire business is based off of referral. I've never advertised.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, that might be, you know, like me and you. I meet you at an event and we're like sisters from another mister. I love you. And then we start talking about what we each do and how we can help each other. Right. But
Yeah.
it also could be somebody who's like, oh my God, you got to help my friend or, you know, my person or whatever.
So the 12-year $1 million journey, I always tell people I was 12 years a slave.
Right. Oh my God. That's so good.
um, it took me 12 years to cross $1 million in my business. But once it happened, like things start moving really, really quickly.
Mhm.
And I think it just took me that long to untether myself from some things and to peel off some layers. And so, what was that journey like for you? Was it like pushing a boulder uphill? Was it, were you even aiming for $1 million in the beginning?
No, I think in the beginning, like I said, I was like blown away that I could make $10,000 in a month, right? My kids were all really little. I was married. Uh, my husband worked nights, I worked days, kind of thing. And we did like what everybody is doing, kind of, you know, making it work.
Yeah. So
Um,
was it like more like a job? Like you basically bought yourself a job that you didn't have to report to anybody. You were your own boss.
Totally. I
Yeah.
totally created my own job,
Yeah. How many of
right?
you guys can relate to that? Like you have a business, but literally it's just like you just have autonomy. You have freedom,
Yeah.
but you're not really free, right?
No,
You got to go
no.
in every day, do all the things, or it doesn't work, right?
Well, and what is it that meme out there? Like my kids actually said this to me the other day. Um, I became an entrepreneur, so I didn't have to work 9 to 5, and now I work like 6 to midnight.
Whatever. Yeah, I see a lot of people do that too, which is why I have so much ruthless boundaries around
Yeah.
time. Like I've been in this game for a long time. And even when I wasn't a full-fledged entrepreneur, I was a commission-based salesperson, fully responsible for my own income, 1099, all of that stuff. So I had to figure out how to have a life and work too, which is why it's so dialed in for me what to do. It's just a way of life for me. Um, but I don't want to live that way. I don't want to work. And I don't know if you agree with this, but for me, I don't live to work.
No.
I work so I can live.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And I would say that wasn't where I was at the beginning. That's where I am at in probably the past I'd say 3 years, right? Like 2018 was significant. It's a
Mhm.
significant shift for me. My husband and like our marriage disintegrated. He was returned back to the UK, and um, I realized like, oh, I better figure my stuff out here, right?
Mhm.
Like I got things to figure out. And so I just like you put my head down and I just worked and worked and worked, got myself out a little bit of a hole that I was in. And and then realized, because I had taken, like, I'd basically taken on another job. So I had a business, full-time job, and I had another job where I coached within somebody else's program, right? And after doing that for a couple of years, I was like, oh, well, this was great, but I don't want to live like this anymore. I want to work. I I want to work to live my life and experience my life the way I want to experience it. That was a significant shift. And that is when things changed significantly for me, because that's when my business hit 1 million. I decided to change my price point up. I looked at who my team were and who was effective and not. And you know what? Like, it was kind of happening around this whole pandemic thing.
Yeah.
So it's funny, right? That people say, oh, these crises, and the people go into all this lack and stuff. And I'm like, oh, my business hit 1 million. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah. Mine too. And actually, Avis, who we interviewed last week, her business hit $1 million in the pandemic too. It was a huge opportunity if you were paying attention.
Totally, right?
So you have this 12-year journey, and you crossed the $1 million in business. You are at the pinnacle of success. You are a $1 million business owner. You are one of the elite 2% of women who have ever done it before.
Right.
And then you look up and realize you're a baby millionaire.
Right? You're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
And what got you to this point is not going to get you where you're trying to go. And so what has that been like? You talked earlier about building team, because this is where you're really at scale, right? It's like you can't go any further with just you at the helm and a small support team. Something has to give in order for you. So you start looking at ways to scale. And it doesn't always have to be team. There's different ways you can look at scaling.
Totally.
In Michelle's case, it's team that she's looking at. And so can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think my business, it supports entrepreneurs across North America. So I kind of straddle the border with Canada and the US. So I've always had employees and contractors, right? And then we had this whole kind of, what is it, great resignation or whatever, all these people wanted to be freelancers. So it became a little bit more challenging to find employees. And then we had this whole, like, people getting a lot of money thrown at them because large companies who can do that needed people, right? And I couldn't compete with that. So I had team leaving because they were getting incredible opportunities, and I want to support them as well in achieving their goals. And so for me, team has been the biggest challenge. Understanding for me in my business that I need employees.
Yeah.
I need people who are dedicated to my business and also help drive the growth of the business.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of their job. It's not just like my company's not a place where you necessarily just show up and clock in and clock out kind of thing, right? Like, we deliver a high level of service to clients, and you got to show up.
And I think that's true for any business that's the baby millionaire business, right? Because you're in a growth trajectory. So most people working in your company have to roll up sleeves and do work to the infrastructure and the building of the business at that level. I feel like it's a similar situation for me. And what we've found, and what I found, I know we've talked about this, as we're talking to others who are in this same level with us, with like your first under 5 million, like first place, it's the same thing. It's the team is the linchpin, right? The team is the place that has to be dialed in order for, it's the foundation, right? If you think about tall buildings, there's a certain type of foundation that needs to be built in order for that structure to go higher, right? And so what you have built you to where you are, and it's not going to get you where you're trying to go. And there's something you said to me about a conversation you had at a mastermind event that you were at that like spoke to my soul and gave me hope all at the same time. Do you remember what it was? When you were talking to all these people who have like 20 million, $500 million businesses a year, and they said to you, Michelle, you're just going to have to get through this phase.
Oh yeah. It's
It's
the
just a
hump.
phase that
Yeah.
it's a hump. It's a phase that
Yeah.
you're going to have to get through. And I thought that was so powerful for a couple of reasons. One, we don't know what we don't know. Just like you listening to us that want to create $1 million business, you don't know what you don't know.
Hmm.
That gets you here. That's why I'm having these conversations. We don't know what we don't know about getting to $10 million, right? To getting to 8 figures and beyond that. We don't know. They're all sitting back going, you don't have a problem. It's just something you're going to have to, it's a phase. You're going to have to get through this. And I would venture to think, since most people who get to $1 million don't do it again, don't repeat or don't grow after that, they don't really get past that phase.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And so now I remember that particular conversation because I was almost like, somebody help me. Right. And the people in my mastermind, they're like, pull yourself together. Like, this is just a thing you have to get through. And on the other side of this, there'll be something else. But like, this is just part of your growth. It's that and like one of them, he was like, Michelle, you talk about expansion and how uncomfortable that is. That's what you're in. You're in the chrysalis trying to move out of the thing so you can spread your wings. And that's just how it is. So accept it, stop complaining about it,
So good. Write that down. Stop complaining. Because
right?
we're talking about this at the $1 million level, but it applies to all levels. You're
Totally.
growing, so it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to feel like nothing's working. It's going to feel like you've been going around the same mulberry bush over and over and over again. Stop complaining about it. What else?
And get yourself focused,
Yeah.
right? Like what is the thing that you need to focus on right now, right? And for me, like we had a little bit of an exchange yesterday where I was saying to you, like, there's lead gen, there's conversion mechanism, and there's offer fulfillment, right? And for me in my business, my focus in Q4 is offer fulfillment. We need team, right? I can see people come in my way,
Mm-hmm.
right? And these aren't like, super small clients. I can see them, they're on their way and I can feel it, and we're going to need team. And so,
Can we go back, Michelle? And I just want to take them along on this journey with us, because wherever you are, as you're listening to me, if you're listening to this on the podcast or you're here with us live watching, um, there's decisions you need to make. And this is particularly as it pertains to financial decisions, because people throw money at problems all day.
right.
Join this program and that program, and they're just throwing money left and right to try to solve the problem, but they don't focus, right? So when she said get focused, when it comes to growth in your business, there's 3 areas you should be looking at, especially when it pertains to financial decisions. So can you give them those again?
Yeah. Lead gen, right? Like, do you have enough leads coming in? Or is that where you need to focus to bring the cash flow in? You need people, right? Conversion mechanism. How are you converting people? And
Mm-hmm.
at what level?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And are you like looking at the stats on that? Like you talk about this all the time, right? Like, what is your conversion percentage? At what level? Right. And even, something as simple as like within conversion mechanism, I see this a lot where people have events and they think there's 100 people in the room. And this might sound really impersonal, but it's like how many buying units are in the room,
That's super important,
right?
right?
And like, because that is an important number to know. Just because you got 100 people in the room, 20 of those people might be your friends,
Your family,
10 of these, your mom and her
yeah,
sisters.
clients who are already paying you.
Totally, right? Like you might be left with 5 people who are potentially able to buy something from you. If you convert 3 of those, that's a great conversion. But you've put on this thing for 100 people
Mm-hmm.
to have 5 buying units. So that's like the conversion mechanism, like looking at that. And then offer fulfillment. Can you fulfill on the offer that you've put out into the world? Like, can you actually fulfill on this? And these 3 things, I don't think matter. Like, you have to look at these no matter what level of business you're in.
Absolutely.
But you can only focus on one at a time. Can't do all the, like, I think so many times, and I did this in the early stages of my business, trying to do it all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I've been really good over the past couple of months to be like, no, I am working on fulfillment, like offer. Um, so lead gen is going to the side. So this thing I'm interested in doing is going to the side. So I
Mhm.
don't worry about my opt-in and whether it's converting or not. Like I'm fulfillment of the offer, right?
Mhm.
And that can also be pricing, right? Do we have to look at client profitability, program profitability? Like that's all part of the offer.
Yeah, it's so funny. We're talking about the strategic side of business, right? Looking at numbers, and so many entrepreneurs who have big dreams don't want to look at it.
Mm,
Like I have clients who come to me and I'm like, "Have you looked at your numbers?" And they're like, "I'll look at it," and then they don't look at it, and then look at it, and they don't look at it, and it's like, I get that it's not your thing, but until you have somebody whose thing it is, it's yours. You own
right?
it. I have an org chart that has my face and my name in every position that is currently not filled in my company. And what it does for me is it gives me a reality check of how much I'm holding energetically, right?
Right.
How much room I do not have because those positions aren't filled. And I think at every level, you need to have that. Where do you plan to grow? And in the moment, you are the chief of everything. So instead of being the CEO, you are the COE. You can only
Right.
do that for so long, right? So where the money is concerned, it's got to be you. You've got to know your numbers and conversion. And all of my friends that you've talked to so far, they know their numbers. They didn't get here by just making money,
Yeah.
right? Molly Mahoney's going to be coming in a couple of weeks. Yeah, a couple of weeks time because I'm about to go on a little sabbatical. She's going to come in a couple of weeks. And like one thing, we've been in masterminds together for years. And one thing that I know about her is she's always like, there's a spreadsheet for everything. Right. And so what I know is those people that I see that are successful, like you are successful, and LaShawn, who's been here, and Dr. Avis, who was here, we know the numbers of the business, and there are so many who think it's just about getting out there, having a message, having visibility, showing up, drawing people in, and delivering your service. If you're trying to grow to this level, you're going to have to do both. And it's not an either or. It's not like, well, I'm not wired that way, so I'm just going to do this. And you can do that to the tune of the six figures that you're able to make,
Totally.
because that's all you're going to get.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is a difference as well between abdicating and delegating,
Yeah.
right? Like as you grow, you're going to need to delegate, but I still don't believe that you can just abdicate it's your finances. Like you are very involved in the financial part of your business, right?
Yeah.
And when there are times where you take a step back because you're focusing on something else, where you're saying like I don't feel good right now about my finances because I don't have the optics, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to me that's an important distinction. You want to delegate for sure at some point, but don't abdicate this part of your business. I don't
I
like.
think too, also like not even the not looking at it creates this feeling inside of you where you start to make up things based on feelings.
Oh,
I had a client
totally.
recently was like, "I'm such a loser." I mean, she wasn't saying this is me doing extra. Such a loser. Nothing's working. Blah blah blah. I'm like, "Have you looked at your numbers?" No, I haven't looked at my numbers, but this is what I want to be happening because we these feelings of like how we want to feel like a superstar all the time, and we're not in reality about what we're creating, right? So had her do her numbers. Come to find out, she had crossed six figures like 3 months before that.
Right.
I'm like, ma'am, you didn't even know. It's your first six figures in your business and you missed it.
Right. And like even you and I, you what did you say to me a couple weeks ago? I feel janky. Everything's
Yes, this
janky.
old
And I'm
janky
like,
business.
shut up. What are you talking about? Like this is just your impression. This is not janky. Okay.
And it's the thing, right? Like if
But
the
it
more,
feels
like you
that
said, the
way.
more I'm out of it, the more I'm like, Michelle, it's all falling apart. She's like,
Right.
are you not the same person as on the Inc. 500 list, number 310?
Right.
Like,
Like
let's be in reality about what you're creating here.
yeah, like let's just ground into reality here. Inc. 5,500, like $1 million business.
Yeah, and I think that's true for most people, for most of you that are listening right now. If you're not paying attention, your emotions will get the best of you and you will begin to underperform. You will perform at the level that you're feeling because you're spiraling. And so that's why it's important to know the numbers and to look at the numbers and to know your conversion. Because even if you only had, like, some people are like, oh, I did a webinar, I did a master class, I did a challenge, and it was awful. And I'm like, okay, so how many people did you have register? I'm going to give you, like, these are real numbers. I had 15 people register. How many people showed up? 4 people showed up. How many people bought? 3.
Right?
What more do you want?
Right?
Out of the
It's
4 people in the room,
75%
yes, 3 people
conversion.
bought. Do it again. We're like, look at the problem. We're actually going to be teaching this in sales school tomorrow, how to discern where to make adjustments in your business, not throw it all out. That didn't work. No, it actually converted. You have a conversion mechanism. Now we need to figure out where the conversion mechanism needs to be shifted. So it converts. It converted at 75%. Are we looking at registration? Are we looking at the number of people who we hold in the registration? Where do we need to focus our energy? And that's why numbers matter.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, in 2015, you were selling people into Play Big. 2022, you're still running Play Big. Don't just throw it out because, like, I did that, and over the course of the, I had this thing going on and that and this program and that. I was like, I'd like kind of try it. I don't know, it didn't work. Really? Because like 6 people bought it and you ran it for 6 months and then you went, oh, that didn't work. Why
Yeah,
didn't it work? Be
right.
willing to keep doing it, right?
And be willing to look at it, not just throw it out and go, oh, well, that didn't give me the 6-figure launch I was looking for. So maybe I need to name it and do something else. I'm going to do, instead
Yeah.
of doing a master class, a crash course or a challenge, I'm going to do, you know what? I'm just going to do a bunch of TikTok videos and then lead people into, like, I just watch people shift and shift and shift and shift. I'm like,
Right?
every time you shift like that, you're actually starting over from the ground floor of the testing phase, and then you never test anything. You
Yeah.
never tweak anything, which is why you don't get where you're trying to go. I see people hover around the same income level. Like,
Yeah.
it floors me. I'm like, how are you at $700,000 a year every year for the past 4 years?
Well, it's self-sabotage.
That's part of it, right? It's like, oh, this is my ceiling. I'm not doing
Totally.
anything more than that. And it's the looking at, like, what needs to change.
Yeah. And you're not going to look at what needs to change if that's your capacity energetically, that's your mindset capacity, that's like all you think you're worth kind of thing. You're not even going to look at the numbers. That's where people self-sabotage. Oh, well, this, I'm so busy. I'm so busy. And
I
it's
hear
like,
that
no, you're
so
not so
much.
you're
Yeah.
not so busy. You're not
Yeah.
so busy to look at that,
Yeah.
right?
It's an important piece. I don't know. I feel like it's like the holy grail. And so many people avoid it or ignore it because it's not their thing. Like, nobody likes numbers or spreadsheets. But you
Well,
can figure out a way to do it so you can keep yourself except for you. Yeah. Um, or you can delegate it if you're at the point where you have the cash flow and the revenue to delegate. But you need to know what your numbers are. How do you grow a business without knowing where it's starting from? How do you try to grow a business to $500,000 or $1 million and you don't even know from where? Where are you
right?
starting? You're like, oh, I think I made this much money. Or when people are telling me, I'm waiting on my taxes to get done. I'm like, you're what?
Huh?
Waiting on your taxes to get done before you know how much money you made in your business? As an entrepreneur, as a millionaire in the making, let's make a commitment that you're going to look at your numbers every month, your conversion numbers, your lead numbers, your sales numbers, and then your cash flow as well, because they all matter. Me looking at my sales against cash allowed me to see that sometimes I was having $80,000 sales months and only bringing in less than $20,000 cash.
Right?
Then I had to make an adjustment.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. Are you paying yourself?
Right. Yeah.
Because so many times I see people building these businesses and they're not compensating themselves.
At all. And most of that is because they're taking the money straight from the business. Don't
Right.
think about it. Like, they make the $10,000 and the $10,000 goes to, you know, the household.
Yeah.
But yeah, it needs to be very clear. And then there's people who are running businesses. I saw somebody the other day. They were like, I didn't take a salary for this much time. I'm like, I couldn't do that to myself
Hmm.
because there's no person that I would work for free.
Right.
Not even myself. So I have to make sure that I am rewarded in some way for the effort that I'm putting in to building the business. So even in my company now, guys, I get paid a salary. Michelle writes me a check every month.
I do.
I
And
have a
pay
job
taxes on it.
and I pay taxes on it. I have a job in the company. The
Hmm.
company is its own thing. Yes, there's profits at the end of that, but I have a job within the company,
Yeah.
right? I'm in the C-suite.
Right? Got the C-suite
Wearing
all to
my
yourself.
wearing my sweatshirt.
Right.
I wanted to ask you some questions. I have no idea how long we've been talking because I don't have a timer on this thing.
I don't know.
If you guys have questions for Michelle, you can ask them in chat and I'll try to see if I can get to them. But there's, I have a post on my page that I'm going to go look for right now where I asked people what they would ask a millionaire if they were having coffee or drinks or a meal with them. And so I'm going to ask you a couple of those questions right now.
Yay. I love that.
This question is from Daniel Bauer. I love Daniel. Hi, Daniel. So,
Hey.
Daniel Bauer says, I love this question, Shameca. I would ask, what's the third, not the first or the second, what is the third best thing you did in your business that helped you scale to seven figures?
Increase my price.
Hmm. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, well, looking at your numbers, looking at the profitability, also establishing a goal, right? First, second, probably it's to do with mindset and energetics around that. Establishing a goal for the business and then looking at, well, how am I going to reach that? What are the options? I can get so many new clients. I could increase my price point. Um, and that might not be for existing clients, but for new clients coming in,
Yeah.
this is who we serve, this is what we offer. And you got to look at that, right?
I had a conversation with a lady yesterday and has a desire to have $1 million business. And pricing was about $500 per month to work with clients. And she's only working with clients one on one now, right now. And this is the reality pricing. When you really look at pricing, it helps you. When you do the math on that, she'd have to have 167 clients in order to create $1 million in her business. There's not enough hours in the day to serve that many clients, and energetically you just don't have that capacity. I think most people have a true capacity to serve 12 to 20 clients. Maybe you might be able to push out 30, 35 if you like that's your job in your business and you're not like at the helm of the business
Totally.
running it. You may be able to do a bit more than that, but I would say comfortably it's going to be 12, 20 max, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that you can market your business and run the business and do all the things and still live a life. When you look at that as a capped capacity and you want to make a certain amount of money, and this is just if you're only working one on one, that's how you come up with your pricing. It's the deliverables, the cost to deliver the program, and then your capacity based on earnings, right? The money the company has to make in order for you to live the life that you desire to live and to grow the company.
So that's a really good equation for people to remember or write down, right? What does it cost to deliver your client experience, right? What's the fulfillment cost? I know in my business, I like clients to have a certain experience, and that costs money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what is my capacity? Like, how many clients can I work with? And then just divide that out. This is what the price is then,
Yeah.
right?
I have another question for you. Um, and actually, I want to go back to pricing too, just for a second.
Mhm.
I'm going to ask you this last question and then we'll wrap up. But the with pricing, the other thing the lady said that when I was talking to her, I gave her my price for the offer, and she goes, "No wonder you have $1 million business." And I'm like, "No, because I could charge that price and still not make it here for so many reasons, and I can talk about all of that." However, um, what I'm clear about is the value of the transformation that I bring to the table, which for many, many years I wasn't. That 2015 Play Big was $197 a month for 6 months. Just want y'all to know that.
Right?
right? Play Big is now $15,500, and it's a 14-week program. And that's from the tweaking and dialing it in. But people have come through that program. I think the most anybody has made in the program is a little over $400,000 in 90 days. Right? We have somebody right now who's just under $30,000 away from her $100,000 goal in 90 days. It will be the first time she's ever done $100,000 in 90 days. And we are only halfway through the program. Right? There's time for her to still create that. So over the years, we've dialed this thing in where it's just a powerful space for people to be in if they want to collapse time around their revenue. And I get clear about that. I also get clear about the fact that, yeah, it may take me a few seconds to take a look at something and tell you how to tweak it in order to make six figures from it, whether it's your live event or an offer that you're putting out, all of that stuff, a program that you're developing. But it took me years to get to this point. So you're not paying for the 5 minutes or 8 minutes or 15 minutes it takes for me to do that. You're paying for the time, right? You're paying for the 20 years of experience, the 12 years of building this business and working with other people to build theirs as well. It's all of that because I'm helping you skip the line. So
Right?
I'm sharing that because I want you to take that mantra on for yourself. You know, when you can brag about the kind of results you help your clients create, but yet you're a prophet in your own land with no home, right?
Right?
You're struggling, but you're helping other people with these tremendous breakthroughs and leave these incredible lives. But because you are dying on your own sword or in people's wallets about what they can afford or not afford, you're not charging enough. And then you struggle. And then it siphons your self esteem, it siphons your confidence, and the cycle just continues again and again and again, and you stay stuck. I
Yeah.
just want you to be free.
Right. Such good points. So, like, and I wish people would really take that into consideration, right? When my business first started out, I remember my first client was $125 a month. Like I was
Amazing.
probably working for $2 an hour. I don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I started.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh, this is, this is a value. Now $750 a month is where we start, right? But there's a different experience that's delivered. There's 12 years of working with entrepreneurs, and I save them. Like I am the shortcut. You are buying the shortcut.
Yeah.
So there's value to that, right?
Beautiful. Jamila McMallow is asking if you had to do it all over again,
Oh
what would
God.
you do differently? What would you do differently?
um, I think that well, I really wouldn't do anything differently because I don't believe in failure. I just believe in learning and opportunities for growth. But at the same time, I probably would have invested time and money and my energy into understanding mindset and the energetics of a human being
Mm,
way sooner than I did.
I would have to agree. That's, I was thinking the same thing. I wouldn't change anything because I'm the badass mentor that I am because of
Because of
everything
all
I've
of
been
that,
through. Like,
right?
this is because of the journey. I don't have any idea who I would be if I didn't walk that path.
Right?
But there's a certainty about me because of the path that I've walked to get here that's game changing for all of those people that I'm meant to be in community with and serve and help them along the way. Um, and so I would think there's two things. That one, you just brought that up, Michelle, about the energetics. And one of the reasons why I avoided energetics is because I'm a church girl. I'm a God girl, right? And so I had to start looking at it. I start looking at, I can't even think of his name right now, but I start looking at different books and I'm like, oh, that's actually scripture. Oh, that's actually scripture. So then I'm like, open at my Bible and I'm like, oh, this is the stuff God's been telling me all my life right here in this book. However, it's pointed in a certain direction and it's universal. We can use it in different ways. And so when I started to understand that, like, you know, the Bible saying God is giving you the power to get wealth, it's like all of this stuff has been right here in front of me, but I didn't understand it. So then I started diving into it, and that is actually what flipped the switch for me, is understanding how the world works energetically, understanding that everything is resonance, everything is frequency, everything has a vibration to it, and we're communing with all things around us at all times. And yeah, life and death are in the power of our tongue. We have the power to create at will, consistently. Everything, good, bad, indifferent. You're always creating with your thoughts, with your words. It's bananas around here.
Right? Yeah. I remember being in a room listening to my coach. It was David Bear, and he said, your words create your reality. And I was like, what is this man talking about?
And
Right?
Michelle said, I want a cheeseburger. I'm a millionaire. I want a cheeseburger.
Right. But you know what? Like I was talking to a friend about this recently, and my daughters actually. If anybody ever doubts the whole conversation about energetics and frequency and vibration, have a look at Caesar Milan and how he interacts with dogs.
Hmm.
Okay. Because a dog can be freaking out, spazzing all over the place. And the man walks in with his calm, cool energy. And the dog is lying on the ground saying, scratch my belly.
Yeah.
Right. That is energetics.
Hmm.
Right. And he is just such a stark example of how that stuff works.
Yeah.
Right. And the same applies. He works with dogs in your business. The same applies with, the people that like all the people watching. It's the people you work with. It's your interaction with money. It's your interaction with your team, with the world, with your family. It's all the same thing.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, that's a powerful one. I think the other one for me would be on a practical side, because I got to be both woo and feet on
totally.
the ground,
Me
practical.
too.
On the practical side, it's to get out of bootstrapping faster.
Oh yeah.
Like at the moment where the pinnacle hits, take $100,000 and create your own line of credit, right?
Yeah.
Um, get out of the bootstrapping mindset, because you're taking that mindset that you've had all this time into an area where it doesn't belong. The frequency's off, the resonance off, the vibration's off. And if you stay there for too long, it'll start to pull you back down into the middle class, into the six-figure business, because there needs to be an expansion there, which now we're back into energetics again.
You know what? That is so true. Like, I completely agree because if I had done the work that I'm doing now with the line of credits and all the things, right? If I had done that last year, would have been easier, right? Because now this year things are a little bit tighter. But also, like, I invested in some really good legal advice. And I got some advice that said you need a holding company. And within that holding company, you need these things set up. And
Mhm.
so I'm in the process of doing that, right?
Mhm.
I should have done that last year,
Yeah.
right? But I was like, oh my God, I get $1 million, Shameca. Like, oh, this is crazy, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
there's the practical and there's the all the woo stuff.
It's beautiful. So I lost any questions that may have been here. Somehow I clicked on a button and then all of the previous conversation went away. So Michelle and I will come back at some point in time. I just gave Michelle a job and answer questions that are there
Totally. Yeah.
that we missed. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to share or say that you think it's important to put out into this conversation at this time?
I would say like check yourself. Make sure you're not playing small, right? Like get yourself find the person or the people that you can have the real conversations with that will hold you accountable, right? Like you're like that for me, Shameca. Like I remember when we were at an event and you were like, "Girl, you did not ask one question. What are you doing?" It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't feel it. And you're like, you got to stand up in the room and ask a question, even if it's the stupidest question ever, and you're going to make it up so that people see you. They need
Yeah.
to see you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so build relationships with people who are going to they see your power, they see you for who you are, they'll hold you accountable to that. And don't play small. Do whatever you can to get out of that small version of yourself, because if I feel like, Shameca, if you and I can do this,
Come on.
I feel like anybody can do this,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And more people deserve to, right? The
Totally.
ones who want to deserve to. And I'm like totally committed to paving the way and to guiding along the way. And I know you are too, Michelle. Um,
Absolutely.
I love this conversation, but we got to go.
Okay.
So I just want to
All right.
do a quick invite to Game On Live. Michelle will be speaking at Game On Live. She'll be speaking on day 3, where I'm bringing all my badass friends to share what their genius and their expertise. So she'll be talking about um, the financial component of growing and maintaining a business that's capable of holding millions. And so I'm super excited to have her there, but I want to invite you to join us and be in the room. We have about 160, 170 registrations right now so far. We will more than likely hit the 200 mark for sure. We're aiming for 250. We'll see how that goes. But right now, your investment to be in the room for Game On Live is just $497. All you got to do is go to gameonliveevent.com. There is a link somewhere along the top of this video. And I think we have one pinned in the chat as well, to go to gameonliveevent.com to get registered. It's 3 days. Day 1 is all about the energetic side. It's all about you, who you be, your capacity, your ability to hold, your personal power, authority, your money, your certainty. It's all tied to you. What you're able to create is tied to you. And so my goal on day 1 is for you to literally break the back of everything standing in your way of what you truly desire to create. And we're going to do it. Day 2 is all strategy. I'm going to show you what I do that helps me to build a multi-million-dollar business simplified. And I will be honest with you, this year I got caught up in complication because I don't know what it takes to grow my business right now. I'm learning, right? What got me here is not going to keep me going. And so I thought that meant I had to do all the things that people were saying to do, but I'm coming back to myself and realizing, okay, people might have 5 million people on their team and they may be doing this and doing that, but I'm still me. And so simple is how I do it. And so we're peeling the layers of all of that back, and we're going back to simple and going, how do we build a $5 million business, a $10 million business, a $30 million business without complication? I'm going to show you how I built this business. Very simple. We crossed $1 million with one part-time assistant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to show you how we did it, right? And show you how we're helping clients do the same thing. So that's what we're going to do on day 2. And on day 3, we're going to get into mastering money. We're going to master the money conversation. We're going to master how to grow your business. What does it take to grow in your audience? What does it take to grow in your financials? What does it take to be able to have a business that can actually be a dynasty, that can far outlast you, that you're not just working to create a job, but you're creating something that can give to generations and generations and generations of family, of your bloodline, of your lineage. So Game On Live event. It's not an event, even though I call it that. It's not just a conference. Game on is a war cry. You want to make $1 million? Game on. Let's do it. Let me show you how to do it. Let me show you how to play. GameOnLiveEvent.com is where you go. Michelle, thank you.
Thank you.
You're awesome.
You're awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Right?
Everything is awesome.
All good.
I
Awesome.
appreciate you so much. Thanks for sharing, being open and willing to share. I think this was a really powerful conversation, and maybe we'll come back around and have another one, after
Yeah,
we go
anytime.
another turn around the sun or whatever comes up.
Totally. Because I remember us sitting, I think it was in that weird hotel we stayed at in Orange County,
Hmm.
in the jacuzzi, and you were like, I think we should have like $1 million women
Did I
conversations.
do that? I spoke this into existence then. It's been
Totally
brewing in my
did.
spirit for some time.
Totally. We were talking about it
Yeah.
then. And I was like, you should totally do that. That'd be awesome. I'll be
Yeah.
a guest.
This
So
is going to be
anytime.
a thing that I continue to do. They'll just be pop ups from time to time. Right now, I'm doing a series, but I think it's important.
It is important.
We don't share enough. Again, there's not enough transparency. And so people are in a vacuum thinking, oh, this is what it takes. Oh, this is what it takes. Or they're looking at the fellas. And the fellas have their way and we have ours.
Oh,
Right? They
totally.
have their journey and we have ours. I mean, guys, how many times have you seen, a dude stand up in a room and say he's the best in the world at everything and everybody just believes him?
Right.
No one asks him for proof.
Right.
But you stand up and say you're the best at anything, and they're like, well, how'd you come to that conclusion?
Right.
Like,
Let me
like,
Google
where'd you
you.
learn this at? Do you have any certifications? Like, it's the craziest thing ever. And so I get that there's a different journey for men and there's a different journey for women. And even so, there's a different journey for a white woman and there's a different journey for a black woman. And so I think having these conversations where there's this understanding that everybody's journey is not the same. And if you don't know what you don't know, you're never going to get there until you can find out. I was fortunate enough to be able to start to create enough revenue in my business that I was able to begin to invest in spaces where I can start to learn what I don't know. But I get that everybody doesn't have that capacity.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, absolutely. Let's do it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Have a great day.
You
I'll
too.
talk
I'll
to you
talk
later.
to you soon.
Thank you so much for watching my show, my channel. Here's what I want you to do. If you really love what you've been listening to, I want you to subscribe to my channel and leave me a comment. No, no, really, leave a comment. Like right now. I'm not going to stop talking until you leave a comment. Seriously.